I'm Helen Moore, Fonterra's Director of Communications. Today with me I've got our Chairman John Wilson.
Good afternoon.
And our Chief Executive Teo Spearings.
Good afternoon.
So the format for today is that John and Teo will shortly address you all, and then we'll follow with a question and answer session. There isn't any capacity for one-on-ones today, so I do encourage you to get all of your questions done in the room today. Over to you, John.
Thanks, Helen. Just before Teo makes a short statement, I did want to say a few words. It's important that this matter relates to an event which occurred back in August 2013. The Fonterra board at that time immediately established an independent inquiry into the event that determined the management team acted in the best interests of our consumers and the cooperative at all times. It was a precautionary recall that was later found to have been the result of a false test from a third party. As the chairman and as a farmer, I am angry and I am disappointed with the tribunal's decision that it does not fully recognise the terms of supply agreement that we had with Danone. However, we do accept their judgment and will now turn our attention to delivering the best possible return for our farmers despite this outcome over the year ahead. And I know that Teo and his team are absolutely committed to that. So I'll now hand over to you, Teo, to make a few comments, and then we'll open up for some questions. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, John. So, good afternoon, everyone. As you will be aware by now, this morning we received notification of a decision of our arbitration with Danone regarding the WPC80 recall, precautionary recall, what John referred to in 2013, so 4 years ago. We issued this morning a temporary trading hold for our shares and debt securities and units in the shareholder fund while we awaited and reviewed the decision. The arbitration was initiated by Danone under the terms of the supply agreement at the time of the WPC80 precautionary recall. Danone sought recovery of losses that it believed were caused by Fonterra in connection to the precautionary recall. The arbitrators were being asked to rule on whether or not Fonterra had breached the terms of the supply agreement with Danone and whether or not the financial damages limit in that agreement should be respected. At the time of the event, extensive independent reviews were initiated by Fonterra's board and New Zealand government. The independent inquiry commissioned by the Fonterra board of directors confirmed that the cooperative's management had acted in the best interest of consumers, customers, employees, and the cooperative. However, what John referred to, the arbitration tribunal has found in favor of Danone and determined that Fonterra must pay 105 million euros, which equals 183 million New Zealand dollars, of recall cost suffered by Danone. Fonterra, the cooperative, is in a very strong position, what John referred to. This is 4 years down the road. We are on a pathway of value creation with evidence over the last 30 months. We have a very strong financial position and we are able to meet the recall cost. This decision has no impact on the farmgate milk price. However, this decision has an impact on the forecast earnings per share for this financial year, 2017-18, and we have revised the range downwards to 35 to 45 cents. We are disappointed that the tribunal has not recognized the terms of the supply agreement between Fonterra and Danone, including the agreed limitations of liability. I know this news is disappointing, as John touched upon already, to our farmers and unit holders. However, as in most international arbitrations of this nature, it's very unlikely that there are options to challenge this decision. Fonterra has learned from this experience. Again, it's 4 years ago. We have moved on. We are a much stronger cooperative. We have learned also in field of food safety, and especially escalation, product traceability, recall processes, and our incident management systems. So that has to ensure that these experiences are not repeated in the future. Thank you.
Thanks, Teo.
Thanks, Teo. Now we're now going to move to questions. So for those of you joining us on webcast, please start writing your questions now. Before you ask your question in the room, could you please state your name and your organisation? And I will just hold you to one question each at a time as well, so that everyone's got a chance to participate. Dan over here with the microphone, just pop your hand up and he'll come and hand one to you when you've got your question. Right, thanks.
I'm Rowan Quinn from Radio New Zealand. John, why are you so angry?
I was probably angrier back in 2013. 2013, the events that unfolded, and then ultimately finding that it was a false test was certainly very, very frustrating for us. And angry today that after 4 years we find ourselves in this position. But as Tao touched on, if I then half fill my glass, it is very pleasing to see the changes that have occurred within our organisation. We haven't, I guess, wasted the learnings from that. I think one of the points I would make is that we made a very unusual move in that we called for an independent board inquiry immediately, or within some days, and we carried on that inquiry even when we found that it was a false test. And we've used that, the management team have used that to improve the business. So frustrated and angry that we find ourselves in this position 4 years down the track, but also pleased from a business perspective that we've made the transition.
Sorry, just a quick follow-up. Was it
Sure.
but actually something about the arbitration, the way the decision was made? Is it that's also...
Yeah, it hasn't really. The arbitrators have chosen, or the arbitration process has chosen not to respect the agreement that we had in place with our customer.
And specifically, what aspects of that?
Oh, well, unfortunately, in this situation, it is a confidential arbitration, and we have to respect that.
Miranda from News Talk ZB, you said that there's not really many options for appealing the decision. Is there any at all, or are you looking into anything?
It's a 300-page document, so our legal team are still poring over it. But the realities is that in an international arbitration of this nature, it is highly unlikely. And as both Tao and I have said, part of us also would like to move on, and that's an important aspect of it as well. But look, we do need to get through the detail of it.
Chris Chang from TVNZ. When do you anticipate Fonterra will be trading again?
Right now.
So as of what moment did they start trading? Because obviously there was the halt put in place.
Right now.
So
Right
from
now.
this very
Yep.
moment?
Yep.
And just quickly, you did mention just before that you were angry and disappointed with it. Was there an expected outcome that you were looking at, that you prepared yourselves for?
We have been open about, look, the breach of contract because of the mistakes we made. Yeah, we have been clear about it in the past. Yeah, and we have taken a provision of 11 million New Zealand dollars, and that is the clause in the contract. And right now it is referred to as recall cost. And what John said, our legal team is working through that. It's too early to say why that has moved or changed, but we will find our way through the 300 pages.
Sudesh Kisun from Dairy News. Teo, are you involved? Are you expecting any other affected customers to file for legal action now, given this arbitration ruling? And follow up, any other legal action pending in relation to the botulism, the false botulism scare?
It's a very good question. So this is 4 years ago, but let me refresh your memory. There were 8 customers involved at that time. Within the time frame of 3-4 months, we settled with 7 of them. Yeah, and settlement means that people are not going for arbitration. The known opted for a different route. So the 7 customers settlement and a very clear future commercial agreement on how to create value and how that value is being shared. So I call it a win-win scenarios. That was with 7 customers. And there's no risk that people go back on those decisions. One customer, and that's the customer we talk about today, opted for arbitration, and this is the outcome. Does it answer your question fully? Yeah.
So I wonder if you're able to say the original amount that Danone had been seeking. There were sort of figures varying between 1 billion and 330 million.
That has been in the public domain, so you are right. We have seen different figures as well. We can't judge the figures because we are not in their boardroom, but we have also seen figures of over €1 billion.
And have you any idea why the arbitration has come up with this figure in the end of 183?
Oh, look, we can't because, as I say, while our team are poring over the 300 pages, the reality is that this is a confidential arbitration. And what it's essentially saying, as we've noted today, is that we're meeting what has been determined a recall cost, and that is what we can do.
Yep.
And at the time, Danone was also following some court action. Is that the end of that now, as far as you know?
Well, it's up to Danone, isn't it? Certainly we would believe in what we have seen so far and reading through, but we haven't been through it all, that we hope that this would put it to bed somewhat, but let's wait and see. It's up to Danone.
But the clarity of today that it is recall cost, and we know from that point in time that the recall took place in more than 20 countries. Yep.
Jamie Gray from the Herald. You've provided $11 million over the years for this. Are you sort of happy with the provisioning process, I guess, as a result of what we've seen today?
Yeah, look, Jamie, it's a good question. We're certainly happy that we complied with all of our continuous disclosure obligations, and because what we were doing was providing for the full amount underneath the agreement that we had. But in saying that, as a business, we're also very aware that we needed to ensure that we readied ourselves for any outcome. Very much the questions that have been asked today. It's an international arbitration. We don't know the outcome. And so the management team have ensured that we've built a very strong cooperative, as you're aware, over the last few years, not only in the way that we carry out our business, but importantly the strength of the balance sheet. And so we have got a very strong balance sheet, and we have clearly got the facilities to deal with this. I would make another comment to Jamie in that while this is a big number, and it's certainly a big number from our perspective, in the context of Fonterra, last year, only 3 months ago, last year we were talking about our financial results, and you had a $180 million stream return just moving around. So the responsibility now, which I know that our chief executive and the team have absolutely picked up, is to just get out into our business and make this as minimal impact on our business by the end of the financial year as possible. We think that the 35 to 45 cents is a prudent approach to take at this stage.
You've said that you want to achieve the best outcome for farmers moving forward. How do you hope to offer support?
Oh, look, as I said, that for our farmers, the milk price isn't impacted at all through this announcement. We have taken the prudent decision and put our earnings guidance down a little bit, 35 to 45 cents. We will update our farmers, our shareholders, our unit holders at the half year. But our business, clearly, there's two parts to your question. One is the learnings that we took out of this experience. While it was a precautionary recall, while it was the outcome of a false test, our business operates significantly different today than it did back then, and that's critical for our farmers. And the other piece is to ensure that we've got the strength to be able to withstand this, and that's clearly the case. And so for us, it's about focusing on the business going forward. And I know that Teo and his management team are focused on minimising the impact of this over the balance of the financial year.
Because just to give you a perspective on the numbers, I mean, at that point in time, we were running the cooperative at 8% return on capital, roughly. Right now, the target and what we delivered over the last couple of years is between 11 and 13%. That is massive value creation, and it's difficult on a day like today, because you are talking 4 years ago. Yeah, we have to focus on the future, and we have to keep this organization focused on the future, value delivering, and staying on those financial KPIs or performance numbers, and that will create value for our farmers. And we will go after what we know today, we will go even a couple of steps faster.
John, I know it's early days, but I just wondered what feedback you've had from farmers, from shareholders today about this.
Oh, look, we've just had a call actually with our Shareholders Council, which is our key cornerstone shareholder group, and we had very good questions. They are certainly understanding of the realities of the International Court of Arbitration and the reality that there could have been any outcome. We have been very frank with our farmers at farmer meetings over the last 4 years, which is a significant number of meetings, that while, to Jamie's question earlier on, the focus clearly from a provisioning perspective was on the contract, and we would absolutely have expected that outcome, but we had to prepare for any outcome, and that was reflected in the conversation today. And we will be ensuring that we keep our farmers, hence we've had calls today with all of our farmer-facing, our shareholders councillors, but also our Fonterra management team that spend time with farmers.
And any anger, like what you're feeling from those farmers?
Oh, it's frustration, but certainly what our farmers also recognise is how different the business is today. And really, like me, I think it would be fair to say it's a residual from what happened in 2013, rather so much from today.
Thanks. We're just going to take a couple of questions from the webcast now. So this one's from Hugh Stringelman, NZX Agri. Agreed limitations of liability common in dairy products supply contracts, and what were they in this instance?
Yeah, the number is what I shared before. That was 11 million, and it's not only common in dairy, it's common in business, and especially in fast-moving consumer goods business. So it's a very good question, and I think it's also triggering another question that legal teams will look at those clauses pretty carefully going forward. Yeah, because this is a precedent for other companies as well, to really have a very careful look at limitations of liability, but also at arbitration clauses in contracts.
Thanks, Teo. One from Giles Beckford as well, Radio New Zealand. Is Fonterra able to recover any of this settlement from insurance?
It's all too early to say. Of course, we will open those lines, we will investigate. We're working through 300 pages of decision at the moment. And yes, we will look at all possible angles and actions we can take. But again, we don't want to continue to live in the past. This is 4 years ago. I want to focus on the future.
That's all we've got on the webcast at the moment, so back to the room.
Questions?
Touched on it before. How confident are you that this is the end of it?
Oh, look, Jamie, from our perspective, it's entirely up to Danone in that respect. But it is our view that the claims that have been talked about from Danone have been effectively addressed in the arbitration. But as I said, it is up to Danone, and we'll see what comes out of that.
Yeah, and Jamie, this is a highly, before this unfortunate incident happened, this is a very highly respected customer from us, and still is in my mind. Yeah, it's a global player, and this is very unfortunate. They have taken decisions, we have taken decisions. Again, I don't want to relive the past all the time, and I will definitely, like we did over the last 4 years, we are open for commercial discussions and value creation rather than reliving and relitigating the past.
Any more questions?
Sorry, Teo, just to clarify there, you're saying you would like to get back into a commercial relationship with Danone?
We have always been clear about that yes, we have made mistakes. Yeah, and we are going to make sure that those mistakes don't happen again. And if you put things into a context, because most of the impact was mainly in China at that point in time. Right now, 4 years down the road, We are #1 ranked reputational company in FMCG in China. Yeah, so, and everybody is aware of that. So I am very much willing, based on that strength, to have commercial discussions rather than legal discussions.
And do you think that's likely, that they
I
will
don't
want
know.
to do business
I
with
don't
you?
know.
Yeah.
It's too early to say, but we need to have the door open, and we need to act on a basis that we want to talk.
Okay, no last questions? No, great. With that, I'll draw this media conference to a close. And thanks again, everyone, for joining us at short notice. Cheers.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.